Bro, can I ask you something? If you hate porn, why do you keep going back to it? You told yourself you were done. Maybe you deleted everything. Maybe you promised God, this is the last time. And for a while, you were okay. Then one bad night comes. You're tired, you're stressed, you're alone. Maybe something triggers you. And before you even realize what's happening, you're back there again. Afterwards, you sit there thinking, what is wrong with me? You hate what you just did. And maybe the worst part is feeling like you've become someone you don't recognize. But bro, what if you keep going back because porn has become your escape? Think about the moments when you usually fall. Is it when you're bored? When you're lonely? When you're stressed? When you're rejected? When you're lying in bed with nothing to do? Because sometimes the temptation isn't really saying, I want porn. It's saying, I don't want to feel this anymore. And porn offers you a quick way out. For a few minutes, you don't have to think about your problems. You can disappear into instant stimulation. And that's why simply telling yourself, I'm never watching porn again, doesn't always work. Because you haven't dealt with what you were escaping from. And then the cycle begins. You get triggered. You start thinking about it. Then you negotiate with yourself. Just for a minute. I'll stop before it gets serious. I've already messed up anyway. And then you relapse. Afterwards comes the shame. You promise yourself you'll never do it again. Maybe you pray. Maybe you mean it. And then, eventually, the same emotion comes back. And because you never learned what to do with that emotion, you return to the same escape. Trigger, urge, relapse, shame, promise, repeat. James says something interesting about temptation. He says that each person is tempted when they are lured and enticed by their own desire. Notice that. Temptation doesn't begin with the action. It begins somewhere inside you. Something happens. A desire gets activated. And then your mind starts moving toward it. That's why the battle isn't only happening when you're sitting in front of a screen. It often starts much earlier. When you're scrolling mindlessly, when you're isolating yourself, when you're feeding fantasies, when you're staying up late with your phone beside you. The relapse might happen in 5 minutes, but the road toward it started much earlier. This is where a lot of men get trapped. They think the answer is to hate themselves harder. I'm weak. I'll never change. Maybe God is tired of forgiving me. But shame doesn't produce freedom. It usually produces hiding. And hiding is exactly what keeps the cycle alive. You don't need another promise at 2 a.m. You need honesty. What are you actually running from? What happens inside you before you reach for porn? Is it loneliness, stress, anger, boredom, insecurity, rejection? Maybe you've trained your brain to expect stimulation whenever you feel uncomfortable. Start paying attention, because if you don't understand the trigger, you'll keep fighting the symptom. And this doesn't mean making excuses for your sin. Porn is still destructive. Lust is still lust. Following Jesus still means taking holiness seriously. But there's a difference between taking sin seriously and believing you're hopeless because you sinned. Romans 8:1 says, "There is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus." Conviction says, "This is wrong. Come back." Shame says, "You're wrong. Stay away." One brings you toward God. The other makes you hide. So when you fall, don't disappear. Run toward God. Confess it. Be honest. Get back up. And then ask the harder question. What led me here?
Maybe stop taking your phone into your bedroom. Maybe stop scrolling when you're lonely. Maybe stop following accounts that feed your lust. Maybe you need to tell another man you trust what you're struggling with, and learn to sit with uncomfortable emotions without immediately escaping them. Because eventually, freedom isn't just becoming a man who doesn't watch porn. It's becoming a man who doesn't need porn to regulate how he feels. A man who can be lonely, stressed, or rejected without needing to escape. A man who can be uncomfortable and still choose what is right. So if you've fallen again recently, I'm not here to tell you it doesn't matter. It does. But I'm also not going to tell you that you're finished. You're not. Get up. Go back to God. Look honestly at what happened. Find what led you there. And next time you're standing in front of that doorway, choose differently. Not because you're suddenly stronger than temptation, but because you're finally learning where it begins. You don't have to spend the rest of your life repeating the same cycle. You can become different, slowly, one decision at a time. Bro, you don't need to keep going back. It's time to start learning how to walk away.